Hello people, happy 2025. It's time to talk about where I've been. I wanted to make this video just because I hadn't made a video in a while, and I wanted to kind of string together a few different experiences that I had in 2024 that didn't really warrant their own separate videos, but basically where I've been, what I've been up to. I hope your year was great. I definitely had some setbacks, but in the end, I think I learned a lot about myself. At the start of the year, I had some teeth surgery done, and I was able to get rid of some of the teeth pain that I had been dealing with for quite a long time. And fortunately, the dentist was able to take away that pain, but in its place, I noticed something that would eat at me for the entire year. In late February 2024, my brother's daughter was born, and this was an incredible highlight. She had a healthy birth, and I'm so happy to have her in my life. Shortly after, however, things would go kind of downhill. If you didn't know, I'm a musician, and one of my biggest fears in my life was tinnitus, which is kind of a ringing in your ears that can only really get worse, never gets better. From what I can tell, everyone has it, but it's usually not really noticeable in everyday situations. I became aware of it around the middle of March. One day I just hopped into my car on the lunch break and I noticed this ringing. Because the car is so silent and there's kind of that pressure, and it was pretty loud. And from that point, I sort of had a mental breakdown. If you or someone you know has it, then you can know how mentally taxing it can be. I read about it online, and they said the best you can hope for is habituation, which basically means kind of get used to it. Part of the insanity that I experience is that, I don't really know what caused it exactly. I don't know if there was one thing or it could have been multiple things. But I think the biggest thing was I started a job at the beginning of the year that had me working at a loud farm with lots of loud industrial equipment all around me. Probably over 90 decibels of noise that was sustained for 8 hours, 1 or 2 times a week. I had tried to mitigate the effects of the loud noise by having my AirPods in, but I think that what might have happened is in listening to podcasts and sometimes music, I would try to compete with the loud noise that was happening around me in order to hear what I was listening to clearly. I remember after those shifts, I would come into my car and my ears would be ringing, but I just kind of thought that was temporary. Long story short, after a few doctor's visits and a visit with an audiologist, I was diagnosed with tinnitus. I also found out I have some pretty severe hearing damage in my right ear, primarily. But the moral of the story is, if you're going to use headphones or ear pods, be very careful with how loud you play music or podcasts. Don't try to compete with the loud sounds that are going around you. Sometimes it can help to have actual noise-canceling headphones so you can listen at a lower volume. I remember in high school I would blast dubstep through my in-ear headphones. And I would listen to it really loud, but that was a while ago. That was 10 plus years ago. But the main takeaway I have is that I had always known that, loud, instant noises like an explosion or a gunshot, those can damage your hearing, but what can also damage your hearing is slightly louder noises over a long extended period of time, like 8 hours. And after I discovered that, I was kind of in a real big rut creatively. I didn't want to do anything but play Tony Hawk. Having hearing problems seemed to sap any creativity I had when it came to making music. I just wasn't motivated if my hearing was damaged. I was in a very, very dark place mentally, and I still say to this day that tinnitus is probably the worst thing, or one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. To kind of get out of this mindset, I ended up going to a small town in northeastern Colorado called Pete's. A buddy of mine had just purchased a house out there, and he planned to fix it up. But while I was there, I couldn't help notice how quiet it was. I had never been to a place that was so far away from any major streets. There's essentially just 2 roads to get in or out, and they only have 2 lanes. One for coming and one for going. And I will never forget that drive. It was such a beautiful drive. I love how dreamlike eastern Colorado can be. It's hilly, and the landscape reminds me of Dr. Seuss illustrations. Nice. Just committing to the camera juggle. Fast forward to July, and for my mom's birthday, I decided to get her a Canon AE1 program film camera. It's kind of low ISO. Yeah, I don't think this is a good pairing.
Oh, really?
I think, I don't know. You want to lift that up?
What is this?
Lift it.
Oh, look at you.
That's for you.
What? That is the camera. What the heck? How did you do that?
So this is literally the same lens cap.
It is. Yeah, it is. It just took me a minute to process.
And basically the one you had was the F1.
Okay.
Right?
You, I'm sure remember way better than I do.
Mm-hmm. I went back through the archives.
Okay.
Of us going back and forth. And you sent me the link to the one where the actual camera has the badge.
Okay.
And it says, like, on the camera itself, like,
okay.
Olympics.
Okay.
So those are still out there, but they're like 600, 700.
Okay.
They're like the mint ones.
Uh-huh.
So I got you the next best thing.
Okay.
So, and it's
that's so awesome.
Like, I didn't want you to have like a collector's edition thing.
Yeah.
Baby.
I don't need that.
Like spend too much money on you, but this is basically the same thing.
This will be awesome.
And I remember you were talking about getting a new digital camera.
Yeah, I had mentioned it.
And you said you liked the silver better than the black.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't care what color it is. What I care about is that it's gonna help me, like.
Look how easy that is.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
It's a really nice focus.
Yeah, it is. That's cool. Okay, you're gonna get to teach me.
Mm-hmm.
You're so funny the way you set that up. I get what you were doing now because I was like, he's acting weird.
Yeah. We took her camera out to get some shots around my hometown, and I'm pretty happy with how this camera performs. Now, moving on to October, I had a very eventful month. On October 20th, I was sitting at work, and all of a sudden I felt this dull pain in my right side. It almost felt like I had a stomach cramp, so I went and sat outside for a breath of fresh air, but the pain just kept increasing. Eventually, I ended up doubling over in pain, laying on the sidewalk in front of my work. The pain had become so severe that I could barely walk. Or stand. I decided that I should probably go to the emergency room. I walked over to my car thinking I was probably not in a state to drive myself, but being in America, I wasn't about to call for an ambulance, but luckily the stars aligned and my coworker had actually just that moment pulled into the parking lot coming back from his lunch break, and he was kind enough to drive me to the hospital, where I waited almost an hour before anyone was able to see me. The whole time I was groaning loudly because I was in the most pain that I've ever been in my entire life. I thought my appendix actually burst. It was just this intense, dull pain in the lower right quadrant of my abdomen. Eventually, I got an MRI scan, and they discovered it was a kidney stone. Luckily, it was passable. I didn't need any surgery. And they told me it was about the size of a grain of sand. I couldn't believe that something so small would cause so much pain. I was shouting in pain when the doctor gave me fluids through the IV to try to get it passed. Sorry if that's graphic, but yeah, I was screaming. Eventually, though, thankfully, it did pass. And that relief was immense. I became such a happy person when it passed. I was so happy. 10 days later, though, pretty much just recovered from all the aches and pains of recovering from my kidney stone. I ended up being fired from that job because of a small mistake I made with a customer. It was a really tough couple of weeks after that, and finding a new job was not easy. None of this was conducive to me being creative in any way, whether with film photography or music, anything. I just didn't want to do anything. I just felt so worn out from such a tough year in general. I ended up getting a job as an Amazon delivery driver, and that's where I work now. It's really such a hard job, especially at the beginning, but I think I'm at a place now where I can resume a lot of my creative projects, but I still come home and I'm very sore. It's honestly not easy to get back into the rhythm of creativity, but that's why I wanted to make this video. My New Year's resolution is perfect is the enemy of progress, and making YouTube videos about film photography is very tedious. You have to remember to film B-roll, you have to put together a monologue of sorts, you have to pay for and wait for all of your film photos to be processed in lab and sent back to you. You have to edit each photo, and I actually use my phone to edit, so I have to transfer them back to the computer for video editing. And I love it, but it's easy to get lost in that perfectionism of that process. But at the end of the day, this channel name is just Atlas Downs. I don't want to lock myself into such a time-consuming way of making videos. I want to include other things like life advice, maybe even fitness updates and general motivation stuff. In a few days, I'll be turning 28 years old, and I know I have a lot to share, and that's all I want to do is share my life. I hope you enjoyed this sort of recap video. I will post a more standard film photography video soon, but I hope in the meantime you enjoy this more laid-back, kind of conversational type of content. And it is a conversation, so let me know in the comments what you'd like to see from me. I will try and respond to every comment on this video, and I hope you have a fantastic 2025. I'll see you again soon.